Hi, welcome to JJ's Productions, and I'm back with another Thrawn book review. And I'm here again, and I'm thinking to myself before I start actually talking about the chapter. I call this a review, but I'm aware that it might not be a review. I say might because I feel like a review is more than just saying, yeah, I like that. I thought that was a good chapter. So I feel like I might be analysing what's going on. I'm giving my thoughts on what's going on, but maybe a review might be overstretching the term a bit. So I'm using that word more for a description or a general oversight of what I'm doing, but it might not necessarily be what I do each episode. So just in case anyone watches it and thinks you're just recollecting what's gone on, yeah, you're probably right. But equally, I do aim to review my thoughts, but sometimes they can be just as simple as, yeah, you like that, or yeah. So, anyway, let's get going. So, chapter 6. At the end of the last chapter, Thrawn and Ilavanto had been assaulted by members of the Imperial Academy, the Royal Imperial Academy at that. So, it was an interesting situation that we were left in. The idea is at the beginning of this chapter, Thrawn and Vanto have approached the leadership, Commandant Dean Locke, and the idea is at the beginning of each chapter, there's it's what I interpret as a monologue from Thrawn. I've got no clarification that it is Thrawn giving a statement or some form of insight to what's going on, but it always sounds like him in his voice, especially with the audiobook. But the way I'm looking at it is, at the beginning of the actual monologue, it actually parallels what goes on at the beginning of this chapter, which is the idea that leadership and discipline aren't always straightforward processes. You can sometimes have roadblocks that prevent straightforward discipline. And that's what happens in this chapter. We've got Orbar and Turoi, who were the people behind the assault. And it isn't a straightforward process to punish Orbar because his parents are powerful in Coruscant. They are, I think they're senators, I can't remember off the top of my head. And the idea is if you punish either one of them, or even punish the people who committed the assault because it's implied Orbar and Turoi didn't do it, then the idea is the Academy will be punished politically because of that. So Thrawn, knowing this, suggests to Dean Locke that instead of actually punishing the assailants, instead he noted that they were very tactical in how they attacked Thrawn and Vanto. So Thrawn himself suggests why not transfer them to a Starfighter Academy at Sky Strike. So it does come across quite well in the sense that once again Thrawn showing good insights into how to manipulate people. You know, he's basically saying, okay, I get your problem, so this is what I'm going to suggest that helps you solve your problem whilst also helping me solve mine. Which is what I love, because this version of Thrawn we've got at the moment, it doesn't strike me as the same one we got in Star Wars Rebels, or maybe what other people have read in expanded Universal Legends material. So it feels like the earliest form of him, and because of that, I like the idea that yes, he's still got tactical insights, he knows how to move pieces around a chessboard, but equally he's not military efficient in the sense that he isn't like how we saw him in Rebels, where he's taking on not robots, droids about 2 times the size of him. So yeah, I'm quite pleased how Thrawn's looking at the moment, and his relationship with Vanto is quite compelling. Even though I still stand by my point about Vanto that he's a bit. I'm not convinced how he comes across as a protagonist. I'm still going along with him because together they make a good pair. Now, like I say, this was a very interesting interaction because, again, it does show that even though Thrawn is the lieutenant to the commandant, you know, essentially ranks lower, he's still got political movement that's grander than this commandant. He knows how to move pieces much better than him. So even though Dean Locke is quite snarky about doing it in the sense of, oh, if it goes wrong, it's on your head, you know that Thrawn's not got it wrong. He's got the idea bang on. So yeah, it's small little interactions in this chapter, but they really do pay off. Another one that's going to happen is in the next section of the chapter. It switches to Arinda Price again, and I'm curious where her story's going to go, but it is interesting in the sense that it's only a small section she has in this chapter, but it's the idea that she's been on Coruscant for a couple of months now from the last chapter when she'd just been transferred, or was about to be anyway. And it's the idea that she's forcing the landlords of ex-Lothal expatriates, essentially, and they're making sure the landlords are looking after them, keeping the rental accommodations in good keep. And there was an interesting exchange between one of these landlords and Price, where the landlord says, "You're meant to be looking after us, not the other way around." Or, it was basically an interesting threat because in this chapter it didn't have any meat behind it as a threat goes, but you never know if there's going to be repercussions for that down the road, so I'm keeping my eye on that. But anyway, the idea is that Rankin notices that this is happening, that Price is ruffling feathers in his name, essentially. So he decides to move Price a little bit further into his administration by putting him in an office that deals with Coruscant civilians. So it's win-win for both parties. Price believes that moves her closer to the centre of Coruscant, essentially. It's the idea that distances her from Lothal whilst also getting her closer to the Coruscant elite. Whilst in Rankin's point of view, it gets her further out of his inner circle, it distances from him, whilst also making her useful. So it was an interesting conversation because Price definitely comes out of it thinking she's got the better hand out of it. But, Price obviously does well in the end. She's obviously the governor of Lothal by the time Rebel starts. So the way I see it is, it will be interesting to see how she gets there, and you assume Rankin will be one of the victims of this progression. This is the trouble with doing the book review, because there is knowledge of characters in advance. There's lack of knowledge as well in terms of Vanto, for instance, but I don't feel it's the worst situation we could have. So I am curious where it goes. Anyway, just moving on to the final part of chapter 6, and they do skip a bit of time, I suspect. I'm guessing a month or so, because the idea is that Thrawn and Vanto have now, they're graduating at the start of this chapter, and Thrawn meets Vanto's parents. And they are quite dismissive of Thrawn in the sense of they've believing in the old legends of the Chiss, and even though Thrawn comes across as polite and amenable to them, he also, when he's asked about, so are the legends true about the Chiss, he says, yes and no. He basically offers a sly little threat as if to say, if you keep asking, you might find out. It's nothing as obvious, yet there's an obvious reason why Vanto's parents decide to walk off straight away. So, it was a little bit awkward reading. You thought this isn't going to go well, but I enjoyed it. It's one of those odd couple situations that if it was in a sitcom, you'd love it. I'm not exactly sure how I feel about it in this book, but it was still good enough reading. So after that, they find out where they're going beyond graduation, what part of the Imperial Navy they'll be serving. Vanto believes he'll get a menial office job, what he's been after all this time, while Thrawn is obviously looking to ascend in the Imperial Navy. And as it turns out, Thrawn is given a place on the Blood Crow. The Blood Crow. I've got to admit, that is a very hard thing to say without it sounding weird. And to Vanto's surprise, I wouldn't say anyone else's, but to Vanto's surprise, is assigned next to it as Thrawn's aide. So, yes, Vanto was a bit annoyed. I'm going to be honest, I know that as readers we expect this, but it is awkward when the character doesn't. So I am curious what more could have been done to maybe ease the surprise from Vanto, because I'm just thinking, really? You didn't think that this guy who's been very manipulative from the start of your meeting him is going to try and keep you along with him? But anyway, that was the end of chapter 6. Chapter 7 starts about 18 months after, by my estimate. It's been a bit of time since graduation. Thrawn and Vanto are still on the Blood Crow, and they've just, at the start of this chapter, been introduced to their new captain, Ilia Rossi. And she comes across as a bit of an hard-nose in the sense that she wants everything clean, tidy by the book, whereas the previous captain was a little bit more I wouldn't say friendly, but he wasn't as aggressive towards Thrawn. So things have been relatively easy for them up to this point. When doing inspections around the ship, Rossi comes across in Thrawn's quarters, the weapons room. She finds what is believed to be junk. As it turns out, Thrawn has been collecting parts of buzz droids, which, if any of you remember, are the little droids that attack Anakin and Obi-Wan ships in the Battle of Coruscant. So, yeah, as an idea, I like that little creatures that can tear apart starfighter hulls. You know, that's pretty cool as far as what could Thrawn want with them. So the idea is that she wants him to chuck. She wants Thrawn to chuck the buzz droids out, get rid of all the junk, and with a bit of support, Thrawn manages to convince her to keep them in the idea that they belong to her anyway, as they're part of the ship. So she can use them if they're repaired to barter away further up the Imperial Navy. Also, inside the buzz droid, because it's an older model buzz droid, inside it's got Dunium, which we were told about in Arinda Price's chapter earlier on. It's a rare material in the universe that's used to build the Star Destroyers, essentially. So, yeah, it's a very important material, and just the fact that it's got a little bit in it, it's worth thousands of credits. So, quite interesting as far as little minute details go. So, even though this little encounter ends quite peacefully, there is still a bit of a frosty air between the two, and that carries on in the ensuing weeks. When I like the idea of how it's described that they essentially get the grunt work, they get the little jobs that nobody wants, and it's like, oh, you know that toilet's dirty, you go clean it, you know. And I think it's very believable that I can imagine that being a real world scenario, you know, not necessarily in armed forces, but just in general work life. You know, if a boss doesn't like an employee, they'll give them the work that they know they won't like to try and force them out. And it's to break the spirit. And that is essentially what Thrawn and Vanto are put through. They're given tasks that are intended to break them. So it is interesting reading that, because neither complain, neither show any disencouragement, but Vanto acknowledges the tedious nature of the jobs, or the dirty work they are being given to do. The next little section in this chapter refers to one such incident where they are sent to inspect a craft that is looking abandoned. It's got inside it, they describe it as static locked Tabana gas. Now, my recollection of The Empire Strikes Back involves Tabana gas, and this is where I found it funny. I don't know how many people watch Cinema Sins, but I remember when Solo came out, there was a discussion about the idea of when has fuel ever been important in this galaxy? It wasn't Solo, it was The Last Jedi. And Jeremy, the narrator, was saying, I've never known fuel be mentioned yet. If you go through the Star Wars films, fuel gets brought up a hell of a lot. So this is just another instance of fuel being important in the story. And it's the idea of, there's 20 containers of Tabana gas in there, but the idea is it's essentially been clamped down to the ship. So the only way you can really get rid of it is getting rid of the hull. So it's quite interesting. It's to prevent piracy. So I like it as a narrative tool. I think Timothy Zahn came up with a very good way of creating a problem and giving something that Thrawn could solve. So as far as the actual mission goes, Thrawn, Vanto, and 3 other crew members, Ensign Mary Barlin, Tech Lino, and Tech Jakib, they go to the ship to inspect it. Now, the way I view these 3, you've got the grunt in Jakibi's like the heavy, you've got Leno's a little bit smart, and you've got Barlin who's like the pilot. That's how I'm viewing it. You know, maybe I'm just stereotyping them, but that's how I'm viewing them. Anyway, the idea is to inspect the ship. They come across, I won't say a stowaway, but he's someone who pulls a gun on and frightened. And then as soon as he realises the Imperials, he surrounds and goes, oh, no, I'm sorry, I didn't know it was you. His name was Signy, and I think I've said that right, Signy. And he claims pirates boarded the ship, that he was frightened, he hid away. Before the pirates took all the crew away, they disabled the hyperdrive so they couldn't go anywhere. So the pirates have gone away to get equipment to take the Tabana gas away. Quite a weird explanation, but you'll read it. Okay. So the idea is Thrawn proposes that they extract the gas, and he's going to use a buzz droid to do it. He's going to get a buzz droid, from what I gather, on the outside the ship, and he's going to basically sacrifice one of the gases of Tabana gas to then be able to pull the others through. That's how I read it. It might have been something more simple, but the general gist was sacrifice one of the canisters to get the other 19. So, it was an interesting theory. It was a little bit awkward though, because to follow through this theory, he also wanted some extra crew, but Captain Rossi didn't want to submit to this request. So she grants him the 3 crew members he's got already, plus Eli Vanto. But that's all, and the buzz droid, obviously. So yeah, it was a little bit strange, because then they say, "Oh, a world needs our help." So the Blood Crow actually goes into hyperdrive and goes and leaves them. So yeah, it's a little bit of a weird scenario. It feels like they're stranded. I don't believe they are, because I had a sneak peek further down the line, and everything seemed all right. But at the end of the end of chapter 7, beginning of chapter 8, it does feel like they've been abandoned a little bit. And considering the character of Rossi, it's not a surprise, because she does come across as being willing to allow a character like Thrawn to self-destruct. And we just know he won't. So, from a narrative point of view, it makes sense to develop Thrawn's character. But as a reader who knows the history, again, it conflicts, because I know that Thrawn won't self-destruct. So this is where I think there is a problem with Thrawn, in the sense that Thrawn is a character who is already well developed, in a sense. Yes, there are things he's working on, and as I've said, I still believe he's not the finished article, but I feel like it would have been better if we'd seen him before he got to this point, because he feels like a deus ex machina at times, where he's already solving problems, and when he's put into peril, you think to yourself, well, Thrawn will find a way out of this. It would have been nice to see how Thrawn came about to be like this. So maybe that'd be hard to write. I don't know. Maybe it wouldn't be an interesting story. Maybe it's something that's going to be told in another book. But at times it does feel that way. I feel like a lot of the time in these reviews or videos, I'm saying, "Oh, and Thrawn finds a way to get out of this situation," and it does feel like a narrative loophole. I mean, it's clever each time. It's not as if it's, like a magic button that is pressed, but it does feel like there's always a way out for him. And I think this is just another situation where the stakes are obviously upped, but there's no consequence to it. I think it would have been better if something had happened to Thrawn or to Vanto in this chapter, or in chapter 7 or 8, but nothing does happen. I've digressed a bit here from my notes, but it is important, because I feel like I'm going to carry on reading, obviously, but it does take the stakes away, and I'm curious what they can do to up them. I'm assuming when Thrawn and Price meet, it'll be a clash, so I'm looking forward to that. But anyway, I'm going to get back on track now. So the idea is that once the Blood Crow's gone to hyperdrive and Thrawn's pretty much explained what he's going to do to get the Tabana gas, Signy reveals himself to be the pirate leader, and a bunch of pirates come onto the ship and essentially create a situation of surrender or we'll kill you. Thrawn concedes, surrenders, the crew hand over the weapons to the pirates, and one of the fellow pirates of Signy, called Angel, he appears to be a bit blood friendly. He likes to create accidents for his prisoners, and he has his eyes on creating one for Thrawn, to sort of appease the bloodlust that he's got. Signy offers Angel the buzz droid, telling him that he's got the Dunium core in it. So basically saying, here's 10,000 credits for you if you want it. I think it's 10,000. I don't think it was 1,000. Anyway, silly little side point that. So yeah, the idea is they're taken into holding, essentially. They find the other prisoners, the other crew members of the ship, and we meet Captain Fitz, who she seems quite spunky. I don't know how else to describe it. She comes across as being very aggressive, or not aggressive. It was like very self-confident, maybe a little too confident considering you've got Thrawn in the room. It's like having a big ego and suddenly the guy with the smallest ego but the biggest brain walks in. It's a very odd situation she finds herself in. I think if she was in her own little story, it'd be interesting as well, but this situation here, it didn't really suit her. There's nothing bad happens, but equally, she's like a fish out of water, maybe, or she's just in the wrong situation. I don't know. Anyway, the idea is that the prisoners are panicking. Vanto tries to calm the group down just by saying, you know what? This is the Imperial Navy. Everyone calm down. And Thrawn's obviously got a plan. He's basically saying, wait, wait. And Vanto's just trying to encourage this. And through the narration, or the momentary narrations by Thrawn, you do recognise that he recognises that Vanto is showing authority. He's actually growing into his role, if you like, of being a part of the Imperial Navy. So I like that because it does show that Vanto is growing. He isn't this kid who's frightened of getting into a fight. He's actually trying to calm or de-escalate a situation, which I like. Anyway, as it turns out, when Thrawn got promoted back in Chapter 6, or when he got when he graduated, he was given another lieutenant's insignia. So he had the one from chapters 3 or 4 or something like that, and he's been given another one. So at the time, Vanto said to him, "Oh, you've got 2 now. What are you going to do with the spare one?" And Thrawn said, "Oh, I don't know. Well, I could do something with it. There's room inside to fit something inside." And what it turns out, what Thrawn did is he basically programmed the buzz droid to come after it. So it was quite a good scene. And, I'm saying scene because obviously I've got the audiobook in here and they actually upped the music for that. It was pretty cool listening to it. But yeah, I'm also reading it and I'm thinking, okay, so they have actually described this well. It's the idea that at first what Thrawn was just trying to do was to get the buzz droid to come through the cell door, essentially. But it just couldn't get through in time. So instead, Thrawn maneuvered the insignia, the lieutenant's insignia chip thing, to where the lock is. That way, you could actually get the buzz droid to cut through the lock, and then they could get out. Now, before it managed to get through the lock, the pirates came and discovered the buzz droid, try and chop through. For the record, as well as all this, whilst that thing's on, if the buzz droid did get through, Thrawn would die because the chips in his hand, so it would come straight at him. So there was always a bit of immediate peril there. Maybe not, again, from the viewer's point of view, because we know Thrawn doesn't die, but just in the sense of, okay, he's got to get rid of the calling device as fast as possible. And essentially that's what happens. As soon as the pirates come, Thrawn throws the lieutenant's insignia through the bars to the pirates. The buzz droid goes chasing after him, and then the heavy guy, Jakib, he just charges through the cell, and basically then it's a free-for-all. The pirates are incapacitated, and the buzz droid, if I read right, because I'll admit it did get a little bit fuzzy at this point, I believe the buzz droid actually tore through the ship and caused a vacuum, which sealed off the cargo hold. And I remember a line where it said, "Can you control the ship from here?" So I believe that they pilot the ship from the cargo hold. I'm going to have to read Chapter 9, though, to know if there were survivors from the pirates. So, overall, after describing that, I've got to say Chapter 8 was a little bit messy. I wouldn't say it was bad, but I'd say it ended messily. I think they were trying to lead into Chapter 9, and because I sort of said to myself, right, I've read 3, that's enough for today, I couldn't find out what happened next. But, yeah, I think they could have ended it a little bit better. So, just to wrap up my thoughts on these 3 chapters, I feel like, if anything, the pace has been good. I think Chapter 6 was quite well split up. You got the follow-up from Chapter 5 wrapped up fairly quickly, got a little snippet of what Price is up to, just so no one's thinking what's going on here. And you've got the follow-up of Graduation and what follows there. So Price is wrapped up. I'm assuming she'll come on into the Chapters 9, 10, 11, whenever, and we'll see what she's been up to for the last 18 months, 2 years. And I'm also going to assume that we get some follow-up of what happened on the pirate ship. So I think with Chapter 9, that's what I want. I want conclusion to the pirate story, because it feels like it's at a conclusion point now. And I also want to just see some progression with Thrawn and this Captain Rossi, because Yes, I get there's antagonism. There was a deliberate point after the inspection of Rossi didn't like the idea that a lieutenant had a um an aide in Eli. So I want to see this confrontation come to a head, even if it's not to Thrawn's benefit. I would like to see some form of confrontation just to wrap that story up, or at least to bring it to a head. So yeah, chapters 9 and 10 I've got hopes for. So let's see how we get on with them. So if you've enjoyed this video, please leave it a like. In the comment section, leave your thoughts on the videos in general, because as I keep saying, this is a new series, it's a new style. I've got tons of work to do as far as presentation goes. I've not got music, I haven't got clips I can use. This is why it's literally just a face cam. I have got no way of making this series look fanciful yet, so it's literally bare bones, but I want to get it out there. I want to start reading it, so hopefully coming weeks I can get it improved, get it looking better. But in the meantime, if you are enjoying it, leave a like, leave a comment, just tell me what you think I can do to make this better. All your thoughts on the book from what I've been describing. No spoilers, please, otherwise you get a kick off the channel. And other than that, thank you very much for watching. This has been Josh from JJ's Productions, and until next time, bye for now, everyone.